Okay, welcome to a Ableton Live recording tutorial. I'm going to fly through this, and if I make mistakes, I'm just going to keep going, so I only have to record this once. When you first open the laptop and you look at Live, you will probably see the previous week's set. So, what you want to do is go under File, go to Open Recent Set, and go to Default Worship. And yeah, it'll always ask you if you save. Just go ahead and hit save. It's not a big deal. And now you should have everything blank here unless somebody accidentally saved something on there onto that name of the file, default worship set. So song number one, what we're going to do is we're going to set this up. First of all, just in case you open this fresh for the first time. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to quit Live and I'm going to reopen it here because for some reason, unless I'm mistaken, it opens in a different view. Yep. So let's open up that previous file once it stops spinning. And let's see if it actually changes that look, which it does not. How you change that is up here in the top right, these selections here, right there. Next thing, you got this big window here. You can close that by hitting this bottom arrow, and you can open and close that. We're also missing what is called the browser, what you usually see on the left. So under View, go to a browser right there. Or I believe that's Option Command B. So if I hit that quick key, Option Command B, yeah, it goes away. And for some reason, it put us back in this view, so we click that again. And now we have our browser arrow that we can close and open. Okay, what I have open here in Safari is this upcoming week set. So we see we have the song Living Waters here. And I probably might need to move my little window there. But to get the information that I need, either on your phone or here in, if you log into services, what you want is the song information. So we want Living Waters 84 BPM. I'm going to go back to Live. I'm going to click that box and see how it's highlighted. Now I'm going to hit Command R, or up here under Edit, you have Rename. So that's the keystroke that you want, Command R. And now you see it's highlighted. So now if I type in Living Waters, it'll show up there if I could type. And I hit caps lock, Waters. I hit Tab, it goes over to the next one, 84. I hit Tab, and now I'm in the time signature. If I just tab through it, it goes to the next song. Let me double check myself, 84 in 4/4 time signature. I'm going to back up and explain really quick. Actually, I'm going to continue on through. Well, no. As I said, on the fly, I'm not going to edit this. Let's talk really quick about time signatures. These two numbers, typical modern music is written in 4/4, just as we see in Living Waters here, 4/4. But anything below 120 might feel too slow to just hear quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to hear eighth notes so that, because there's just too much space to do quarter notes, you want to hear eighth notes. So that is the second number. The second number here is the type of note that you want to hear, whether it's quarter notes or eighth notes. Those are going to be the two that you're working with. So a lot of times it's either 8 or 4. So 8 quarter note, excuse me, 8 eighth note, 4 is a quarter note. And the first number is how many of those clicks are going to pass until your accent hits. So for example, if I hit 4/8, every 4 clicks, it would give me that higher pitched click. But typically, and this is universal, kind of an industry standard, if you will, with a click, you want to hear the accent on the first beat of the measure. So in 4/4 time, to hear eighth notes in our ears, we put an 8 there. And we'll continue on and see if our other songs are in a different time signature. So Glorious Day, 110, 4/4. So I am highlighted. I'll hit Command R again. Glorious Day. And I just remembered I hit something. I didn't do a step already. One of the first steps is you want to do a save as, or save live set as, and change the date. So let's see. Open my calendar here super quick. That would be the 14th. So we're in the month of July. So I'll just go here. That one's pretty close. Now notice when I click, that happens in Windows as well. If you click a file name, it'll change it already. So that kind of gets you quite a bit there. And then you can just change some of those things. And there you go. That way you haven't accidentally saved over the default file. Now again, because I'm in 110, which is lower than 120, an easy way to remember 120 is what's twice or what's double of 60, and 60 being 60 seconds in 1 minute. So that's why 120 is very common. I'm just going to continue on, and then we'll go back step by step. So yes and amen. I hope all these aren't in 4/4, but yes and amen. I think that was 73. Is that right? 76. So notice when I move out of that window, so if I double click that, 76, I think I could have just clicked in that and it'll change it. Yeah. That's what's unique. Whoops. That's what's unique about that window. I'm popping back and forth. First of all, I'm popping back and forth between softwares really quick on a Mac, and this happens with Windows as well, but instead of Control tab, it's on a Mac, it's Command tab. And if I just keep hitting tab while I hold down Control, it goes through the different open applications. So yes and amen. Here is love. Here is love. 76 as well. Nope. Wow. 80 and 3/4. So this would be a good example. That just ironically happens to be the same BPM 80. So that's in 3/4, but 80 is pretty slow. So if we want to hear it in 3/4, but hear eighth notes, what you're doubling is the second number, or excuse me, this first number. You need to double both. So now this would be, I think I'm actually playing, yeah. 6, 8, so I click in there, hit 6, and 8. What is song number 5? The Goodness of Jesus in 4/4. You'll just have to pay attention to, unfortunately with this tutorial, I'll just have to talk about it. Goodness of Jesus is in 70, because that was highlighted. That's in 4/4, and we want to hear an 8/8. Okay, so that's good. So I'm going to hit save or Command S. In our services and planning center, a lot of the time signatures are put at 6/4, and that just because typically if they're fast enough and you want to hear 6/8, but I don't want to complicate anything, 6/4. So if it's a fairly fast number and it's in 6/8, it's a fairly fast BPM and it's in 6/8, you might see it listed as 6/4. Just do 6/4, listen to it, and if you need to change it from there, then change it from there. Okay, so that's how you input the songs, the time signatures, the BPM, and work around those things. Now, just for the way of example, and I'm going to try not to mess this up. So Andy already has, let's do Here is Love, key of C. And let's talk about our browser window here. In our browser window, first of all, you can go click there, or View and Browser window, or Option Command B. You've got some, first of all, let's back up. WT pads, WT stands for Worship Tutorials. That's a website, worshiptutorials.com. That's where we have downloaded these pad packages that have all these different keys. Basic is the kind of original one that they've had around for a while. I have noticed through use that these are fairly loud. And now let's walk through these descriptions of these other ones here. Clouds is mostly an organ sounding based pad, and it tends to be higher frequencies. Your highest pitched kind of frequency pad is the ice pad. And if I haven't mentioned it already, these name descriptions here are pretty accurate. So ice is kind of your highest pitch, and it's just kind of pad, kind of a synthy-ish sound. Pads is organ based, pretty high pitched. The next one I would probably say would be dust pads. Dust kind of, there's something about it that sounds a little grainy. It's pretty basic as well. That's probably the most kind of sparse basic pad that is out there as far as kind of the overtones that are in the pad. So if you're ever listening to a pad and you're like, boy, there's just like something's clashing, you might want to just try dust. So let me go back here to Here Is Love, and we'll just stick that in here. So we'll just, I'm using my mouse, I'm swiping left with 2 fingers, and I'll put it in the pad, key of C, and that's lined up. So I just click and drag and let go, and it's loaded there. Just by way of example, here below is the waveform, and you could actually click that and it'll start playing that pad, and if you had headphones or something, and you could hear that. Which, by the way, on the interface here on the front, there is a headphone input. You might need an adapter from the larger 1/4 inch size to the mini that a headphone would use, but you technically, although I can't hear it now, you could preview those, but I digress. Close the folder. Next, as far as pitch, would probably be fire, but just like the name describes, there's like some blips, so it kind of sounds like fire. I might put that on a song that needs some activity. Minor pads is just that they're in a minor key, so even though I downloaded those and put them on here, we've literally never used any of them. Wondrous pads is mostly a kind of an orchestral kind of strings based pad, and it tends to be a little louder than the others. So let's actually do that really quick. So Goodness of Jesus, key of A. So let's put Wondrous pads, key of A, but I'm going to close this. But just like I said, this tends to be a little bit louder. Now to change that without changing the volume down here or messing with the floor volume pedal, you can actually double click this, and then you see your gain here, and you can reduce it. Typical average listener will notice a difference in volume change at about 3 dB. So that's always a good place to start. Somewhere between 2 and 3 dB is kind of your first notch. If you're like, oh, it's kind of, you want to hear it doubly, not doubly soft, but just like 2 clicks, if you will, lower in your ear, try 6 dB. Kind of go in factors of 3. Once you want to close this, you just, in your bottom right here, you click the arrow and it goes away. And since that was the last thing selected, it would reopen. Glorious Day, I don't know what key they're doing in, so I might need to, I'll probably end up deleting all of this, but key of G. I don't know that we have Glorious Day. So let me go back to here. MultiTracks. Let me explain this window again. Mixed MT is a service that MultiTracks has where you can kind of create your own mix on the website. It's a little bit cheaper of a way to get tracks to a song rather than buying all the tracks. But we only did a couple of songs for that. Most of them are going to be in MultiTracks. So really, you're only going to be using 2 of these folders, and Performance Tracks is a folder I created, and we'll look at that in a second. MultiTracks, Glorious Day, and I don't have it in G, but I'm going to go through this. I'm just clicking through my folders to open these up. Let's talk about our tracks here. And when I say tracks, I'm talking about these. Now, I've selected one, and now I'm just moving with my arrow keys, moving back and forth. All of these tracks are in alphabetical order, except for the first, well, 3, I guess you'd say, the pad, the click track, and the guide. So I just start click track, we're on Glorious Day, and notice if I accidentally let go at the wrong place, I can just click and drag it. I'm going to make a mistake here and show you how to correct it as well. Guide. What if I accidentally click and let go on the wrong one, and now see how it changes color? And you're like, that's really bothering you? Just delete that, and then click and drag it again, and it'll show up the correct color. I'm going to go through these, just a few of them to make this kind of quick. Whenever you have a instrument that is just odd or something like this dulcimer, I'll put it in folk. These names are not strategic, or they don't have to match up per se. They're just kind of placeholders, if you will. And you can actually click in there, same key command or Command R, and you can rename it to, you know, dulcimer. Okay, it doesn't have to stay that name. You can rename it folk. Okay, and I'm gonna stop there. But basically, here's another thing too. If you've got a lot of open tracks, if you will, vertically, that you want to get rid of, you don't have to keep them all there. You can simply highlight and delete, and notice Electric 5 disappeared. So you could kind of do your whole set, and then if you want to clean it up a little bit, you could delete those tracks. Say you just made a mistake and you want to bring those back, the quick thing would be Command Z, which that's a command in Windows as well. It's basically undo. Now because I just did it, it'll tell you the last thing that you did, but I'm going to delete those again, and now you'll see that this changed, delete track. So you can close this. Let's talk about those tracks for a second. I'm going to go to Finder, and let's just talk about this. Unfortunately, I don't have one queued up, but in my documents, I have this organized, and this is what the browser window is looking at, is kind of the document folder. So in my Finder window, or click down here, Finder, Documents, this is where I'm placing all of those tracks. Now because we have different keys for the same song, what I'm doing is I'm creating, when I'm importing a new song, or a new key for a song that we already have, I am creating this folder, and I'm changing the name for this example, All My Hope Hillsong, so that I know what artist does that song in case there's 2 All My Hope songs. And then within that, now I'll put the folder that is downloaded from MultiTracks in that key. Okay. Let's see. I think this is already, that's in the wrong folder. So Amazing Grace, I think that goes in this folder. That's an accident. Whoops. Yeah, we'll just replace it. That was an accident, so I corrected that. Okay, so that's how these are arriving in here. And then Christmas, since we're only doing that one time a year, I created a Christmas folder and put all the Christmas songs in there. Again, I created these folders and then put the actual folder that's downloaded from MultiTracks. Let's talk about MultiTracks just for 2 seconds. I'm in Safari. I just hit Command T for tab, by the way. I hit MultiTrack. You should have automatic login. Sure, we want cookies, account. Okay, I'm already logged in. That is saved. If you want another song, like I noticed Glorious Day, that pulls up. We'll click over here on the actual song title. And if we already have it, it'll just give download instead of like it probably says something like purchase. click the download, and now you're going to pick the key that you want. We are currently paying for an option that gives us all the keys at all times. So we could, I'm not going to do it now because I think this, I don't want to overtax this computer. We could download the key of G and then load it into that folder. I'm not going to do that now, and I'm going to close that window. Okay, back to live. Close this. So that's the basics. Let's talk about some greater details. Notice down here on each channel you have the audio to and then a selection here. Most of these are going to be on master, and master goes over here to this master fader on the far right. And here you want to select the 1 and 2, which is already set. All this should be pre-saved, but if for some reason it ever comes off of this. The Q is our click, and we want that on 3, and that's already doing that. And so for example, over here on the click, you'll see this external out, and then it's on 3 as opposed to something else. So we just leave that alone. If for some example, like bass, we actually have 4 tracks coming out of our Behringer audio interface in the rack. We could send a certain track out on a certain channel, say like drums if we wanted to use drums. So we would hit external out, and then we go to configure. Let's see, oh, I don't have it plugged in. Well, the next step would be audio, and then what would show up is the Behringer, and then you would select 4. Okay, it's not giving me 4 right now because I had to unplug it to make this tutorial video. But that's how you do that. So I'm going to change this back to master, and there you have it. The rest of this you can ignore. Let's talk about an advanced thing. First of all, I do not have the line 6 pedal plugged in currently. So let me plug it in, and on a Sunday morning, this is probably what will happen. Actually, let me do this. And I'm going to click a button here and try not to pull these headphones out of my ears. So I'm going to click a button, yep, and see it bounces. And it'll always bring up this question, just hit no, everything should be set, and then you're good to go. Now, if you ever need to change something, like for example, say during rehearsal you decide the song order needs to change. Well, you can click this, and I'm holding down, and I can move it to somewhere else and let go. But now that's going to mess up the order of all these songs. So this button right here specifically is actually attached to button number 5 on the floorboard. But we want to change that. How do we change that? Okay, we want to hit, now I'm going to pause for a second. During this process, you can't have somebody clicking on the floorboard, or this could really mess you up. So you need to, either get the floorboard from them or just tell them don't click on this. But when you hit MIDI, notice all this stuff turns blue. And notice how some of them kind of have these fractions. So the stuff that has these kind of fractions are things that are assigned already. So with my MIDI button already clicked, now if I hit my browser, I can see what the buttons on this floorboard are assigned to. So we changed scene 5, but we also now shifted 3 and 4. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete 3. So I highlight it, hit delete button, and 4 and 5. And I'm going to delete those. Now notice it disappeared, the little fraction, if you will. Now if I select this button, so I have that selected, and now if I hit the button of 3, see how it just filled in there, and now it's scene 3. Go down here, select this arrow button, hit 4, select, yeah. Do you want to replace the previous mapping? Yes. Oh, interesting. This is 3. Okay, I would say no. Okay, so I'm glad it's doing this. Why is this scene 4? Okay, I want to delete scene 4. Scene 3. Let's try this again. Hit 3. Okay, scene 4. I'll hit 4. Scene 5, and hit the button 5. That was weird. Okay, so now once that's saved, I just click MIDI again. Oops, that was an accidental hit. Hit MIDI again, and now we're back to what we're used to seeing. Let's do this as well, another kind of advanced thing. Notice right now the pedal, the volume control, is actually assigned to the master fader here, but I want to assign it to just the pad. So first of all, let's delete that. Let's select pad, and now if I manipulate that pedal, it showed up and it automatically does track volume. Notice it went to 6 though. And I think what that's doing, let me double check that. I think that's the maximum that it'll go. Oh, I see, it goes +6. Yeah. So I always just did 0. So let me open that back up. Notice it's not there. I hit MIDI. I want this at 0. So that's the maximum volume it will go. I just select it, I hit 0, and now we're good. Let's change that back though. Let's keep it on the master volume. I prefer it on the master. Just click that, manipulate the pedal, put it at 0, which I just click in there, 0. That was a single click. And now I hit MIDI and we're back to being correct. So that is how you change things on this, is simply hit that MIDI button, select it, and then take it off of the MIDI. Specifically, that's called MIDI mapping. If you ever need to Google that, you can hit MIDI mapping. Okay, let's talk of it, an example really quick, kind of an advanced feature. Say on a rehearsal, you have your bass player couldn't make it, or your drummer couldn't make it. Well, you could load up tracks, like for example on Glorious Day, or maybe you're doing rehearsal, you wanted to load all of the bass tracks to help your bass player, learn the bass part. What you could do, instead of deleting those and then showing up on a Sunday morning and finding, oh, we need to listen to those tracks again, and then loading them all again, these numbers down here that are highlighted, that is the mute button. So if I just hit that button, now track 7, or in this case the bass track, is going to be muted, but it keeps those tracks already loaded. So that's kind of a convenient way. And then if you want to hear them again, you just hit the mute button, mute and unmute. So that's kind of a little trick there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to show you while I've got this open. Got your views. Kind of the same thing that I already spoke of. So say I had a bunch of songs that I'm using the tracks on, or even the click tracks here, but one song like the guide is just way too loud or isn't loud enough compared to the other ones. The best way to do that is to double click that, and now I can change the gain, up quite a bit for just that one song as opposed to the other, either up or down, to balance it out between the others. And that's how you kind of balance out your whole set. For example, I've noticed maybe it's on a slower song, so it's kind of quieter, but that guide, because it's a quieter song, now seems so much louder. Just double click the file there and then turn it down in that spot. Again, when you're done, just click this view box arrow and you're set. At that point, everything, I think that's everything that I need to go over as far as Ableton. Yeah, and we'll leave it at that. So hope that answered all your questions, and have a great worship set.